Back everyone. Tonight we continue to get more insights into President Tinubu's speech on the 1st of October. During his Independence Day broadcast, the president announced the convocation of a 30-day National Youth Conference to address critical issues facing the country's youths, including unemployment, education, and political participation. And according to the president, the conference aims to provoke meaningful dialogue and empower our young people to participate actively in nation building by ensuring that their voices are heard in shaping the policies that impact their lives, or creating a pathway for a brighter tomorrow. This is according to the president. So tonight, let's get the perspectives of Modupe Ajibola. He's the founder of VER, Voters Access to Representatives in Elections. He joins me virtually from the USA. Hello, Modupe. Good evening to you. Thanks a lot for joining us. Welcome to Politics Tonight.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
Right, so, this our conversation for tonight. Some Nigerian youths have expressed divergent views on the planned National Youth Conference. While some youths welcomed the idea, others are nursing the fear about whether or not it would lead to real policy changes. How valid are both line of thought, and how optimistic are your own expectations?
Yeah, so it's first of all, thank you for having me, because this is a very great discussion to be had. I believe that this has come of age. I think it's a good initiative. The concerns that everybody has is that this has been done before during the time of Jonathan, and we still don't have the data to show how it performed, and we don't know how it's going to perform now. But I do know doing nothing at this junction is going to be a nightmare for Nigerian youths. I think that we in the diaspora and also on ground need to galvanize ourselves around opportunities like this so that we can help the government stand up for what it's aspiring to become, right? So the negativity that we have is warranted, because they've done this similar things before. And the only concern I have is the agenda is not clear. The outcome, the goals that they expect to get out of this is not clear. So there's enough opportunity for data analysts to be involved in this, to understand the data before going in, the forecast of what's going to happen after the event is done, and the coalition that is going to be coming to participate in this, right? In the United States, for instance, they have programs like this for like SBA programs, small business administrative programs, that actually tries to migrate entrepreneurs and individuals and youths, or wherever it is, from just doing it alone into becoming corporations and becoming tax-paying companies. I think if government can have that agenda here, where we say, okay, hey, everybody coming into this program, we're going to use this opportunity to understand what you're trying to achieve from a business standpoint, or what your goals are. We're going to now enable the government parastatus to enable you to achieve those goals. For me, it's very difficult to understand how they're going to achieve this, and I'll tell you why. We've been saying this again and again to the Nigerian government, that you have to have instruments like infrastructure to help the youths to take advantage of the global market. The global market is theirs for the taking. I, as I am, have staff in Nigeria, young people that are brilliant, and to pay them is still a challenge sometimes. To the infrastructure that affects them sometimes forces you to go higher elsewhere, because NEPA power goes away. They don't have consistent performance to allow them put out the results that their counterparts are putting out other parts of the world, even though they're brilliant. So that infrastructure situation has to be addressed. The secondary issue, in my opinion, that they have to address is security. Government has to be the backer of corporations or small businesses, or whatever these young men decide to start. Government has to be the backer of it in the global market, because the global market has a distrust in the youths of Nigerian for good reasons, because of fraud and some of the things that have come out of that part of the world. So what we need to do is have the government of Nigeria have a global statement that we are going to back customers that endorse these young people, and we're going to make sure these young people are held to account for the work they're doing globally. And then thirdly, the issue of taxes and migrating companies from hustlers, from a hustler to a business. Because most Nigerians today are hustlers. They're not businessmen. They're just hustlers. which means they don't have a career. They have passions, they have aspirations, but not a career. You cannot build a career in an unstable environment. So you have to understand. So the government has to now help them create enablers to match them up with those who understand career already, to develop these young men into the mindset of building careers, building businesses. In US, the SBA programs actually have, government has these programs where they match them with the civilian businesses that are already in similar sectors. And these people become the ones that vouch for you. So there's a lot of opportunity in this kind of program, but it cannot be a bunch of opportunism where people come and get paid to speak, and they speak, they give grand speeches, and there's no instruments to measure what happens after the fact.
All right. You know, one thing supporters of this conference argue about is that it would provide the much needed platform for young Nigerians to voice their concerns and influence the national policies. But the question is, do we really need a conference for government to address these challenges? I mean, truly, Nigeria has a thing for holding conferences but never implementing recommendations or takeaways from these conferences. This planned one concerns young Nigerians, and if I'm not mistaken, this would be the first of its kind. So what does the president seek to achieve with its National Youth Conference?
So, a point of correction, it's not really the first of its kind. Maybe the first that would go this length, but it is a unique opportunity, yes. And the critics are correct in that, okay, the voicing of concerns has been done for every cycle of protest, and the government really has a difficult time addressing head on what the grievances of these youths are. Some of us believe that's some of that responsibility goes on the youth, because their messages are sometimes conflicting, right? All of them are, when a bunch of people are dealing with this hardship, it's difficult to have a coherent message, right? This is why we've been arguing that government needs to have private sector help them with instruments like data-enabled instrument to take ownership of the grievances in context to conditions, right? Is the condition infrastructure? Is the condition, whatever it is? Because the biggest employer for the youths right now are their family members overseas or businesses outside of Nigeria. It's not in Nigeria. So if that's the case, well, then grow that sector. You don't need to frown upon that sector. You don't need to stifle that sector and say, hey, they're sponsoring. I think what I hear sometimes is that the people from overseas are sponsoring this protest. So you choke the funding, and then these youths are even further enraged because they have no income now and nothing but time to waste. So the government has to think of this holistically and bring the right people to solve it. There are people that you should have for mouthpiece, and then there are people you should have for key instruments, people that have built platforms to measure things, people that have built coalitions, a coalition of organizations to get together, not people that want to be on social media taking videos of themselves having a speech, and you say that Nigeria is moving forward. No.
So that would lead me to my next question. What kind of delegates do you think young Nigerians need to represent them at this conference? What qualities must they look out for in who represent them? Those who will contribute meaningfully for the conference to make the desired impact.
Employers, people that can employ them. That's what they need. People that have global reach to employment opportunities, people have local reach to employment opportunities, people that have tools for them to onboard themselves onto these tools so that things can be measured. It is not people that have speech. It is not people that have, goodwill, but no way to implement the goodwill. It is people that have tools, opportunities for the youths, because they need to walk away from there. Those people need to walk away from there inspired that these youths are ready to work and they're ready to take on the challenges of the global market.
So I hear you, but I'm still a bit confused. I'm talking about the modalities. I mean, looking at the modalities of this confab and selection of delegates, what do you think it should be like so that the aspirations of young people will be at the heart of the conference's deliberations?
Yeah, the young people themselves on their side, it's difficult to understand. Will be silly to assume we understand the structure of their own delegations, if you will, right? I think it's who can scream the most is in some cases the celebrities and and artists that they send to these conferences, which is still okay. But wherever they send to these conferences to represent them, or even if most of them are coming to this conference to be represented, has to go talk to the youth at large, has to have forums, has to have different things before this event to demonstrate that the voices being echoed are exactly the voices of the youths, majority of them at least, and majority of them that are speaking. So people should galvanize towards data right now, data. Meaningful data, because otherwise we're wasting our time. Nobody can account for what we're trying to solve or what we have solved if we indeed do solve it.
All right. You know, this conference will only get, mathematically, puts like 0.1% of the youth populace in Nigeria who, if we must be sincere, might not fall in the category of underprivileged or unemployed. So how do you think government must ensure that the resolutions reached in this conference will get to the most vulnerable youth population in the country? I think that's the most concerning issue for most Nigerians.
I love the question. The question is fantastic, brilliantly stated. It is in fact the dilemma to be resolved. I'll tell you one thing. We also face the same dilemma in when I get people to mentor Nigerian youths and trying to qualify them. One of the things I have to do is get them on platforms that I've created to say, okay, go on and put your portfolio on there so that we can shortlist you. One of the challenges Nigerian government has is that it's surrounded with a small group of echo chambers. And these chambers don't allow the government to see outside the scope, to see who really they need to bring their ideas into the foyer of what they're trying to solve. So the question you've asked is a good one. It's above my pay grade, the correct answer for it, but I can tell you this, is that government needs to make sure that they find ways to reach outside that echo chamber that they've created surrounding them with their own short people. In fact, I would recommend that they talk to colleges, universities, to talk to different, just you got to go outside. Government has to send people in the streets, walking legs, to go to places where small leaders have been emerging by vocalizing the challenges of their peers. You got to find those people. And you got to now tell those people to help you find those amongst them that actually have the ears on the ground. It's a tough job to do, but it has to be done because you've asked the correct question. If you don't get the right people, you garbage in, garbage out.
I kind of agree with you, but you know, one of the major reasons we're having this conversation, or the president has decided to put up a conference, is because youths are the foundation of a society. Their energies, inventiveness, character, and orientation define the pace of development and security of a nation. But how does this administration go about rebuilding the trust young people once had in the country?
Well, one of the biggest ways I think they can do it is to bust the monopolies that are in the industry today, right? There's every country has to deal with monopolies. In the US, some of the ways they deal with it is to say, hey, any contract that comes out of the government must be appropriated to minority actors, minority companies, minority enterprises. And those minority enterprises have to report on that opportunity. So Nigerian youths are not part of these projects at all anymore, because the effort, the barrier of entry to even be qualified for such a government contract is so high. So government has to reduce that barrier for the youths and say, hey, you, Mr. Big Corporation, you are the one, the onus is on you to go find them and make sure that a good number of them is employed on this contract we're giving you. And we're going to show that data at the end of the cycle of this contract so that Nigeria knows who's responsible for taking the money from the government that we paid you and accounting for it by employing the youth or not employing the youth. We will see. So that level of transparency would, number one, just eradicate the issue of participation in Nigeria when it comes to the youths being given contracts, being given jobs. Then the youths on their side have to begin to show their portfolios. This is why I said tools are needed. So we've been building tools like this. The VER app that I built was part of that it gives people an opportunity to put on their portfolios, but also put on their grievances so that we can take data and account of that and see which one we need to tackle first. Because if you don't have the data on that, you may be tackling the list of these problems that doesn't really move the needle. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
But would you say we've made progress so far? Because in recent times, there's been increased clamor for youth inclusion in governance in Nigeria to bridge this country's governance gap. Would you say we've made progress?
I think so. I think there's no the youths in Nigeria are by and large self-reliant. The child so the progress that has been made is thanks to the youths, not thanks to people that are bringing them up because they are fighters. They keep fighting, right? But they can only fight so long. I can tell you how many of them have moved to Canada, how many of them have left the country and just given up on the fight altogether. So for them not to give up on the fight, and to some government apparatus, this is good for them because they don't have to worry about Nigerians that have left. They only have to worry about the ones that are there. So, which is unfortunate, which is sad. We should be saddened when we see brains that are drained from Nigeria that are the best of the brains because these foreign countries are not taking our second class intellectual citizens. They're taking the best of our citizens, right? So we should be sad when we see that. But when you have a country that is built around consumption, not production, it is happy when people leave because there's less consumption. But we need a country that is built around production. And there's several Nigerians in the diaspora that are part of innovations from Google, innovations from Tesla, from all these great companies. People willing to be called to honor their country and serve and transfer knowledge to their people. But the government is not interested in such a thing. These people are not even looking to be funded. We've said this over and over again. They're not interested as much as there's some youths that are going back because they smell money and they say, okay, we can go make money from Nigerian government. But there's a good number of youths that are in the diaspora that have been transferring knowledge to their counterparts at home. Government needs to build around this. There needs to be, I cannot say this enough. That's the only opportunity we have because the knowledge is not present on ground. In fact, Nigeria is a place you go to lose your knowledge, to lose your core competency. You go to Nigeria, you spend a month, 2 months, you start majoring in minors. I don't know if you know what I mean. You start majoring in
how am I going to get that question because there is a general conclusion among stakeholders that Nigerian youths are underrepresented in public office, either elected or appointed, despite forming the bulk of the voting population. There is an overwhelming view that the situation needs to change. So for you, where should the change begin from?
I don't think the issue is the piling up because the youths are brains. They need to be used in the streets. They need to be used to actually solve problems. They don't need to sit in a cabinet or sit in well, they need to sit in cabinets, but not sit in positions that just sit down there and vote and collect money. No, they need to be utilized. But yes, they need representation also in government.
But there are those who are saying the older generation is not doing anything, and the young Nigerians have to step in at this critical time.
I don't disagree with that. My challenge for the young Nigerians today is that I don't see them also forming the right coalition to impact results. There's so many great individuals, not great leaders. I'm not sure if you understand the difference. Leadership is about bringing your peers along with you and allowing their agenda to become metamorphosized into yours somehow. That's leadership. But what I see is individuals that can echo the grievances of their peers. It's different from leadership because you know what everybody's suffering from doesn't make you a leader. But because you know how to bring them together to solve it, that's what makes you a leader. So there's work to be done in building leaders, is what I'm saying.
The government continues to implement several other youth-centric programs to give our young people an advantage in the rapidly changing world. But young people say they do not feel the impact of these. What must be done going forward?
What must be done is go through the private sector. The partnership, government is only good at allocating resources, should not try to run the resources. When government tries to run it is where everything goes left. There's private companies that have proven track record in providing great mentorship training to the youths. Find them, enable them, make them part of your organization, and not the ones that government as the few ones that you've worked with and you know how to distribute money amongst each other. Yes, nobody's even arguing that people shouldn't take percentages out of whatever they do today. I thought we all know that's a given. But we're saying that you can still do that and add value, right? And the way to add value is allow companies that are actually interested in doing the services, the work, to do the damn work. You can't take 60%, 90% of a contract, put it in a bank account, travel to Dubai with it and expect your country to operate. What is it operating off of? You have to have some goodwill for your own people, some good instinct. When they call us names in other parts of the world, it's because of how we treat each other, not how brilliant they think we are. No, how we treat each other is the issue. You have to be humane enough to know all what you're taking out of the government for your personal interest is not worth it if your country continues to denigrate.
So let's go back to some of the sectors you talked about earlier. Technology, which is one of the major drivers of economic boom globally. But Nigeria as a country was still heavily reliant on oil as our major source of revenue. How can we as a government, or how can governments rather, harness this youth monster point and birth a new Nigeria powered by technology and innovation?
Coalition. You have to form a coalition that is built from inside and outside of Nigeria. And it's so easy for Nigerian government can snap their finger. People are ready to serve. The coalition will bring the transfer of knowledge, the training needed, and it will be documented. It will be structured. And Nigerian youths can then begin to serve other countries and serve other customers across the globe without even leaving Nigeria. And these entities that are serving this global market can start becoming taxpayers and good citizens of the country also. But the government of Nigeria is so drunken on the oil that, when you're talking about tech revenue, you're talking about a company. I'll give you a story. I went to Nigeria one time and I said, I want to start some startups, small startups. And each one of them will have a revenue at the end of the year of about $2 million for each of those small companies. And they would employ about maybe 200 people, blah, blah, blah. I said this. And I was laughed out of a meeting I was at. And it's like, and one of the people in the meeting said, 2 million K. If I want 2 million, I'll just go to get it from the bank. And you are telling me that's what you all will make in a year? That's too small. So that's the mindset of the leadership, because they don't realize that 2 million keeps the youth away from their wahala. So it doesn't have to be small for you, but it's not small for the people that are giving you the issues now, the youths that are screaming at you now. It's not small for them. It serves their interest. It is huge. So if that's what they make from you allowing all these small tech companies to thrive, you have done your work.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Modupe Ajibola. Many of us are looking forward to this youth conference and what it holds for Nigerian young population. Thank you for joining us tonight. Is the founder of VAR, Voters Access to Representatives in Elections. Thank you so much for joining us on Politics Tonight. And I look forward to more conversations with you. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.